All right, guys, it is September, which means it is episode 3, edition 3, take 3, whatever you want to call it, of our staff 5. So instead of just telling you the 5 best baits for this month, we are going to show you 5 individuals from our crew and what we've actually been using the last month that we think will be useful for you guys going into the month of September. Good news is, this is one of the best months of fishing of the year. It's a great transition month. Lots of great information coming. So if you guys are ready, let's geek out on some tackle, have some fun. Let's do it. All right, welcome back, my friends. As usual, we are starting out with the best. Best goes first, right, Jeff? Didn't we establish this last week?
And you're always the best for some odd reason.
It's really weird. It's a voting system. I'm voted by my peers, so this means a lot for me.
Yeah.
It's not anything to do with being the king.
No.
I mean, no offense, right? Let's jump in to my bait. This is a bait that we just dropped a couple of days ago. But it's a bait that fortunately I've had in my hands for quite some time because, I have to, pick out color samples and do all that kind of stuff. But this is the brand new Teckel slash kicker, one of my favorite baits really ever. But coming into this time of the year, you guys are going to catch so many fish on this. It's the perfect drop time for you guys going into late summer and through fall topwater season. Slash kicker, I've talked about this before, was one of those baits that I was so excited about getting, and actually they arrived on a UPS truck as I was leaving our original store to drive to Lake Mead for the US Open, and I pulled one out, drove down to the lake, tied it on, threw it off the dock, and caught a 7-pounder with literally my first cast, and have been hooked ever since. So, just to show you guys, the slash kicker is essentially a pencil popper style bait. It's a bait that Hideki designed for himself for an event that he was having, I believe at Hartwell, or maybe Lanier, right? One of those lakes that are full of herring. They wanted to have a pencil popper that had a different movement, a different sound. It's basically 130 millimeters long. It weighs an ounce. It casts like a rocket. Has a very interesting movement to it. And you guys will see when you twitch this, you can do longer twitches, and instead of getting like full big glides, it has this really interesting kind of head kind of spitting type motion to it. So it does move side to side, but it's very different. It's an unusual, unique movement that the fish love. Also, when you miss a fish, and this is how I caught my 7-pounder on the first cast, is it actually missed it, and I slowed it down and just twitched it, and it moves on itself brilliantly. Probably the best bait that moves on itself. Shower blows does the same thing. A lot of pencil poppers have the ability to do that because they have that larger back end, but this one does it so effortlessly because that nose moves around. And you just twitch, drives them crazy. It's almost like figure eighting for them. And almost always, they will come back and eat it. So even if you miss them the first go around, you have a chance to score them. So 8 core colors. A lot of you guys are going to catch fish on things like, clear ice, chartreuse shiner. A lot of you herring guys will love the chrome. We do 2 colors custom here, White Walker, of course, and Saki Bomber. As far as setups go, this spring I was throwing it a lot on the Mad Bull, which has historically been always my larger, kick knocker rod. It fishes it beautifully, but I've been playing around a lot lately with the Raid Gladiator Anti lineup of rods, and this is the new Engrave, which is their glass composite rod. It's a 7-foot glass composite. It fishes this bait brilliantly along with other baits like chatterbaits, crankbaits, that kind of stuff as well. So if you guys are wanting a softer rod, a true glass rod, it really has that really kind of softness to it that you want. It just gives the bait a little bit different action. It's a little bit of a timing thing to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's a beautiful rod. So there you go. The bait of the month for me, the Teckel slash kicker. Now I am going to release it to guy number 2. Let me get out of the way and let a grumpy, shorter guy tell you what he's been doing this month. Peace, my friends.
Hey guys, Griff here. For the month of August, I threw the Namazu. All right, August is a very tough month of fishing for us, so I like to give a presentation that's super realistic, and right now is a great time to throw these catfish style baits. Catfish spawn is done. They're starting to, catfish fry are starting to get a little bit bigger now, so I throw this Namazu right here. It looks just like a catfish. Two different sizes, a 5-inch and a 4-inch, so you can take your pick of size, many different colors. I like to throw it weightless, so I just hook it up weightless, cast it out there, skip it under some trees, give it a couple twitches. It has a great twitching action with this soft back end of the body right there, just like a bait fish. And then when it falls, it doesn't do a ton of shimmying, but it has a slight shimmy, so it comes down like that. The bass love it. The bass love to eat baby catfish, especially this time of year, so I love to throw it. All right. I am throwing it on the 4 and the 5/0 Infini hook. There you go, from Ryugi. The other day, Jeff and I went out and I decided to throw it on a free rig to check it out, and check out that footage right here. The Namazu. All right, Namazu Master. That's who I am. All right. So the Namazu is a stick bait made by Nishine that is shaped like a catfish. All right, and like I always say, bass love catfish. Especially now, the catfish are small, so we're throwing these small ones, 2 sizes right there, 4 and 5-inch. Ever since these new colors have come out, I've been killing them with this thing. It's one of my favorite things to do. Today, I was just scooting around with my live scope, not necessarily trying to live scope stuff, but just trying to find structure. I finally found the structure, so it's a little bit deeper and I need to get the bait down, so I just threw a weight on there, started casting it out into the structure, and then fishing it through it, dragging it through it. So that's the way I'm fishing it today, catching some fish. I also like to throw it weightless. I love skipping it into cover, throwing it around grass, around trees and stuff like that. Super effective bait. Bass love the Namazu. When it comes to stick baits, everybody knows there's so many on the market. This one is my favorite because of the catfish shape. I mean, it looks just like a catfish. This right now, this catfish just got done spawning, so all the babies are in the water. I have had this talk with Jeff many times about the science of why bass eat catfish and how they're in all the lakes. So this is why I choose it. It's fun to fish because it's not just like a stick. It's actually shaped like a fish. So that's why I choose this over other stick baits. You guys should give it a try. This is my weightless plastic rod, the 7-foot mag medium heavy steez. I love this rod for weightless sakamata, weightless stick baits, stuff like that. Great rod, has a stinger tip on it, so it has that soft tip, but it's super sensitive. Also a great small jig rod. It's slightly parabolic, it's not super fast. Keeps sensitivity with that stinger tip on there. So it's doing all the things that I want it to do. I like to move the bait. When I move the bait, I don't want that rod to be super fast because it's gonna pull it so far, and I'm barely wanting to move that bait. So when I'm using this rod, that rod bends in the tip, and it gives me a chance to keep the bait down there a little bit longer without pulling it to myself super fast. All right, guys, now we're gonna send it over to Julius, see what he's got going on over there.
What's cracking, guys? It's Hippie with the hookup tackle, and it is the month of August. That means it's time to do another Staff 5 pick, and my pick this month is the Megabass Great Hunting 110. Why did I pick a jerkbait for this month? It's been really hot here in Arizona, and you know, we've kind of had trout on the mind and kind of getting away, so it lined up perfectly. You know, it coincided with the drop of, you know, this great hunting line. Me and Callan took a rip up to Montana and we chased those big brown trout. You know, on conventional tackle, that's FA Imago. That one's all beat up, man. We had so much fun chasing those big fish, and it worked out perfectly. We got some great footage, and you guys will see some of that stuff kind of come through the pipe. But, you know, trout fishing, we've always been, you know, geeks at the store about it. Callan loves to do it. Ben's always been about it. And you know, colors have been a little bit difficult because, you know, they eat really crazy stuff. They will eat some natural patterns, but we like golds and blacks and that kind of stuff. So it's nice to have, you know, a solid run of 14 colors that's going to come in that appeal to, you know, trout. So a lot of good ones in there. This one's one of my favorite. I love a solid gold. So a lot of good ones in that lineup. Different that's going to come in this bait than your traditional 110 is that it's going to have round bend trebles instead of the out barbs. Other than that, the bait is the same, just going to come in those unique colors to make you guys, you know, more efficient when choosing colors for trout fishing. So gear, nothing too crazy. Throwing it on my regular 110 rod. It's a P5 110 special, zillion and 10-pound fluorocarbon. That's just my all-around go-to jerkbait rod. If we are fishing from the boat, the setup works great. If we're on the bank and there's not a lot of overhangs and stuff, this rod will also get you by that bigger size jerkbait. But if you are shore banging and there's a lot of, you know, overhangs and stuff, I like a spinning rod. You know, a spinning rod will throw a 110, no problem. Also, a 110 stick is gonna be a little bit shorter, so you can be a little bit more accurate and fish around some of that gnarlier cover. So nothing too crazy on gear, but man, the 110 is always been a trout staple, and now we have a trout specific colorway. Not saying that you can't use these for bass. All species are gonna eat these colors. There's some really good ones that are gonna work for those species. But man, I'm excited about it. Hopefully you guys can use some of these colors in your trout fishing. And yeah, let's see what the next guy's up to.
Hey everybody, it's CJ here, and I just quickly wanted to run you through the bait that I've been swinging around the past month. You know, we're coming out of the dog days of summer right now. The fish have been deep, but they're slowly but steadily starting to work their way up. And in my opinion, there's no better way to target these fish than a deep diving crankbait, but I think they need a couple things. I think they need a smaller body getting towards that deeper depths, and that's where the Deep Six comes in for me right there. It's one of my favorite baits for these transitional periods. It gives them a nice finessey look, but it can still get down to those deeper depths. If you look at it real close, you can see obviously it's got a body, it's got a lip, your typical crankbait build there, but there's a couple unique characteristics about this bait that really drive this bait forward for me and make me want to pull it out of the box. If you look right away, you can see that the body is pretty thin. That allows the bait to give it a more natural profile and a natural presentation. And on the front there, of course, you have a long lip on there. It's super skinny, so it allows the bait to grab the water quick, get down to that target zone fast, and up your odds of getting that bite there. Inside, it has a weight transfer system, pretty typical for most crankbaits on the market right now, but it's got a couple unique features that I think helps it stand out. It's got a weight transfer ball inside there. And obviously when you make that long cast, that weight transfer ball shifts all the way to the tail there, super far back, and it just casts like a dart through the wind. That thing just flies through the air. And once it lands on the water and you start your initial retrieve, because that bill is so skinny, it grabs the water and just forces that nose down. It starts that retrieve right away. And then that weight transfer ball shifts right to the nose. It goes all the way up to the front of the bait. And what this causes the bait to do is it wobbles on the way down. Okay, this weight transfer system acts as like a dual purpose that I'll get to here in a second. But that bait is wobbling on its way down. And once it gets towards that target depth, which is on the box, it says about 20 feet. But this is tested with 8-pound line. So realistically, with 12 to 14-pound line, like most guys are running for a crankbait, you're going to get on average like 16 feet. So anyways, that ball goes towards the head there. The bait is wobbling down towards the bottom. Once it gets towards that target depth or it tips off a piece of structure, that weight transfer ball will ever so slightly shift towards the gill plate there, and that changes everything. That is all the magic in the bait. It takes it from a wobbling action and it turns it right into like a rolling, flashing action, and that's where you're going to get that nice natural appeal to the fish there. So it's kind of like a 2 action in 1 there. Once it's down to that target depth and it's rolling, flashing, right on that transition from the wobble to that rolling, flashing motion is typically where you're going to get your bite. Further into the retrieve, as it's down on the bottom, it's going to be rolling, flashing, giving it a nice look. And then as it comes up and your retrieve is ascending, again, it switches that action. So it goes from that rolling, flashing action to that wide wobbling action. And typically right there is where you're going to get your bites. So it's a great bait for when the fish are a little more finicky. They're in these transitional areas. You know, all summer long, I like throwing a real deep diving crankbait. But sometimes when they get tricky, that Deep Six helps me get a few more bites that Magnum crankbait can't get for me. So, and of course, you know, to get the best performance out of the bait, you want to have the right gear. Like I said earlier, I'm running 12-pound line right now. 14-pound line you can get away with. You're just going to lose maybe a foot in depth there. 12-pound line for me is great. This is Sunline Shooter. It's super abrasion resistant. I really enjoy throwing it around this rockier stuff or around structure. It just seems to hold up really nicely for me. And then for the rod, generally you want something that's a little bit more parabolic but has some backbone to it. It's still a deep diving crankbait, and with that transfer system, the bait really wants to load the rod on the cast. So you want to let that bait get back, let it load up, and then use the backbone and the tip of the rod to really fling that thing out there. And because of that weight transfer system, the thing will just fly through the air like a dart. So nice parabolic rod, good backbone, somewhat of a soft tip, so that way when you're cranking down there and the fish comes up behind the bait and swallows it, you still have treble, so you want that tip to just give a little bit, so that way they can swallow the bait in there and get the hooks, and then you have the backbone to actually drive the hooks once the bait is in their mouth. So the rod of choice for me lately has been the Ryugi XX Launcher. It's a 7-11, so plenty of length to be able to cast that bait a long ways. Nice and parabolic, but a good backbone. But that's what I've been running the past month right there. I hope this little spiel has given you guys a couple ideas, and maybe this bait here will put a couple more fish in the boat for you. So thanks for listening to me rant there. I'm going to toss it over to Jeff.
What's going on, guys? Jeff here, and for my Staff 5 of August is a swim bait. Who would have seen that coming? But this is a swim bait that a lot of you guys already know about and are already fishing, and it's something that I've been fishing for quite a long time, but not this specific size. And that bait is, of course, the ever so popular Magdraft. But I've been throwing the Magdraft Freestyle version. Now, obviously, everybody knows about the original Magdraft and its amazing capabilities of catching fish anywhere and everywhere at any given time of the year. But the Magdraft Freestyle is something that I haven't really put in that much time, and an application where I found it to be really, really beneficial in throwing this style is when I'm fishing around boat docks during the hottest part of the year, basically right now in August, when every single day it gets to 110. And on a lot of my lakes out here in Arizona, we fortunately have marinas, and the marina is one of the best spots to give these fish a chance to be in shade to where it's a lot cooler. Why the Magdraft Freestyle is one that I think is a slightly bit better option than the normal 6-inch Magdraft is because of the weedless properties that come with it. Inside this bait, I've got a 6/0 beast hook. This is the 1/4 ounce version. And the reason why I like to go with this more weedless style is because in some of these marinas that we have here, when you're skipping underneath a boat or underneath like one of the walkways, there might be some type of pump system to allow the boats to rise up out of water or lower. There might be random ropes that you run into. There might be just a bunch of weird stuff to where if you throw that normal treble hook style Magdraft, yeah, you can come through some of that stuff sometimes, but I find that every once in a while you'll get that perfect skip under a boat and you'll get it way back in there, and as soon as you start reeling, you feel like, oh crap, there's either rope or some type of pump or something like that, and then you hook it and then it's like, ah crap. So then you have to go off and get your bait back. When you throw this, since it's completely weedless, right, run your finger over this, and you can fish all up in that super gnarly stuff that a lot of guys might be too afraid to throw that bait. And I find that in those types of spots where guys are afraid to throw a bait, you're gonna get more and sometimes even bigger bites that way. And doing that with the Magdraft Freestyle is an absolutely fantastic way of getting those fish to bite. The setup that I was using for the Magdraft Freestyle is the ever so popular, this is the Megabass Mark 56 swim bait rod. I've been using this rod for so many different styles of swim baits. It's kind of perfect for that like 1 to 3 ounce swim bait range, whether it's a glide bait or whether it's a wake bait up on the surface or a treble hook soft bait. I wouldn't recommend this rod if you're gonna be fishing this bait out in like 20, 25, 30 plus feet of water with a bunch of line dumped out. The rod is fairly parabolic overall. However, when you're fishing it high up in the water column, and I'm not making these super far skips, I mean, these skips I'm making are maybe 60 feet max, and it's high up in the water column. So when I make that skip back in the spot and I get that bite, when I feel it, I wind down, make sure that the rod loads up, and then I hit the fish as hard as I possibly can. And normally that's enough to get that hook to pop free. On the Magdraft, I find that the hook slides super, super easy up and down. So when you get that bite, I find that that hook pops out and it hooks the fish super, super well. So I'm not too worried about how parabolic this rod is. As long as I'm keeping it kind of in that short, like close quarter combat style, I'm able to hook those fish super, super well. The reel that I've been fishing is the Bantam. This is like a 150 size reel. Absolutely love this reel. One of, I think, the best reels out there on the market. Feels super solid on this rod, and it's just an absolute staple. And fishing 16-pound fluorocarbon, now you can jump up to 20-pound, especially if you're fishing around some like really gnarly docks or trees or anything like that. But I find 16-pound works just fine. 20-pound might help you get a better, harder hook set, especially if you're going to be fishing that fluorocarbon, which I highly recommend. If you're going to be fishing a softer, more parabolic rod, you're going to want to fish like a braid to fluorocarbon leader, or just straight fluorocarbon or straight braid, just so you can get that extra little power when you're setting that hook. This time of year, trying it in those shaded pockets of spots, whether it's trees, docks, or anything like that, is an absolutely fantastic way of getting some bites that may not be happening anywhere else on the lake. So go out, grab some Magdraft Freestyles. You can go from this brand new one to one that looks like this, all in one trip. So thank you guys so much for watching this Staff 5 of August. August is obviously a really hard time of year, but glad that's kind of over, and now we're into September when the fall bite starts to pick up. So from everybody here at the Hookup Tackle, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out.